Okay, right. It's been a couple of weeks, but we are back for Gladiator Diaries, episode 24. This has been the longest break that we've had in doing episodes, but we've both been doing stuff. I've had a couple of Thursdays in a row where I haven't been able to do it, and then funnily enough, right? So I had told you last week that I wasn't going to be able to do it. And we were saying about, maybe we'll do an episode early in the week or something, because it's been a while. And then the reason I couldn't do last week was because I was in Manchester for Cage Warriors. Whilst I was out in Manchester, a little birdie by the name of Andy Aspinall told me that you were going to be up at the gym in the following days anyway. So I thought that works for me. We'll leave it until the Thursday once you are back home, and we can go from there. So yeah, what have you been up to the last few weeks, man? Like, how's it been?
Yeah, so aside from obviously, I had Sebastian down here. He's fighting this weekend, so I'm going to be cornering him on Saturday. I went up to Tom Aspinall's gym, as you've just mentioned, on just for Monday and Tuesday, just for 2 days. I went with my dad this time, which was good. Just had my dad out there, meet all the other lads and everything. And it was just good to get some like training in again. Just train with some really high level guys and get some different looks, than from what I'm normally used to, and just also train with guys that are heavier, because it presents different challenges. Challenges which I don't find with normal light heavyweights or even middleweights. So it was really good. It was really eye opening. Gave me things that I needed to work on. That myself, which is good, and they're always very, like I say, their hospitality is absolutely amazing. They're really good guys, and it was really good to get some working with everyone again. I'm looking forward again to go up there again. Probably the next couple of weeks, I'll be back up there. So, just trying to keep everything ticking over. I'm sure as soon as I get some sort of fight booked, and Tom gets a fight booked, and everyone else as part of the team, things will be ramping up in the gym, and it'll be really good. Really good to see how the intensity increases whenever there's a fight camp going. Like I say, it's just been plodding along, really. Just basically just trying to level up. Adding again little more bits and bobs to the kettlebell program that me and my dad have been working on. So it's pretty much kind of just same old, regular scheduled program, regular scheduled procedure, just hopefully we're going to be inching closer towards a fight. Today, I think this week, Will Curry actually came back from Sweden. So we got a session in just now, got some grappling rounds in, 8 rounds. So that was really good to get some work in with an old friend. It was good to see him, good energy, good vibes. And he will definitely be ready for his fight next Saturday, that's for sure. So all in all, just good vibes, good energy, and just good training, really.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big fight, man. I'm gonna go out to London for that card. There's some fun fights on that card. Obviously, you've got Will back on there, Jordan Vucenic, who I don't know what's happening with the main event of that card, because it was supposed to be George Hardwick and then he got an injury, so it could be. I don't think they've made an announcement yet, but you could have a scenario where Jordan is headlining. Maybe he's headlined the Indigo a bunch of times, so it's not particularly anything new. But those have kind of become a staple of the Cage Warriors calendar, those Jordan Vucenic shows. So yeah, some exciting stuff. In regards to going up to Tom Aspinall's gym and spending a bit more time there, obviously I know that you took your dad this time around, but was there anything else that was different this time around of going?
Before I answer your question, let me just grab a hat real quick, because this is going to be annoying me, my own hair, because I'm the biggest narcissist in MMA. So of course I need to always make sure we're looking fresh. You know what I mean? I can't, even though I look very tatty, like my face looks like I've been in like the trenches, mate. Like I've literally been in the war, and I've been like just chilling in the front line. Do you know what I mean? Just getting bullets thrown at my face. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what is going on over here? But anyways, So what is different? The training was slightly different. Like, remember the first 2 days we did like wall grappling rounds on the Monday, and then just kickboxing rounds on the Tuesday, and they kind of just mixed it up. They just mixed up the training really. But I got to do some ground rounds with Tom, with some of the other lads, and what I just really noticed is that strength plays a big part in these things. Technique, of course, you got to be technical, you got to be, but I couldn't pull off my moves quite as well. And not only that, it was a lot harder to escape. Obviously, I was putting myself in bad position starting on bottom, but it made me realize that I do need to step up my game even more, especially against bigger guys. But it's good because then when I'll go back to fighting guys my own size, it will make it better. So I basically just highlighted that I need to do it more, and hopefully they'll continue to do more of those types of trainings, and then I can get the rounds in. Like Tom, when he holds you down, mate, it's really hard to get up. Like usually I get up and that's like my thing, but against him it was a lot harder. It's a lot harder to get out. You can see the high level jiu-jitsu black belt skills on show, and that's going to be a big problem for a lot of heavyweights in the in his division. So if I can compete and train with these guys, then yeah, when I get a fight, I'll have absolutely no issues.
I'm sure you would have seen the clip that came out on the same day that Tom was actually at the Cage Warriors show in Manchester. The clip of him and John Jones coming face to face for the first time. What do you think? I know that Tom immediately said, like, this guy isn't as big as I thought he was. And I've seen Tom Aspinall at a few Cage Warrior shows. I mean, you've trained with John Jones. I've never seen John Jones in person, but I was surprised actually to see that there isn't, the height difference between them is, Tom, I thought, looked a lot bigger next to John than I imagined he would. But maybe that's just because, you see John Jones on TV and you imagine that he's massive. And then when you see Tom Aspinall next to him, I'm like, well, I thought that John was actually going to look bigger. But what did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously in the photos, definitely Tom looked like the bigger man. He's 6'5" as well, so slightly taller, slightly bigger, and just more in shape. Jones looked a little bit, not to say that looked really badly out of shape, but definitely didn't look quite as in shape as Tom is. Tom looked a bit more muscular, like a bit of a stronger stature. Obviously, I know. Jones and his wrestling, is a whole nother level and a whole different story in terms of where his strength and other areas he can put that in. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty funny little face off, and to me, I just kind of Tom should be getting fights against those top level guys, like he should be getting the fights against Stipe. He should be getting the fights against Jones, and unfortunately he's not been allowed those fights because they need to fight each other. And I just think the more interesting fight would be against Tom. It would be more, it's like, I understand it's almost like a passing of the times or passing of the tides in a way, because now I believe Tom will reign supreme in the heavyweight division, and it's like that fight between Jones and Stipe is almost like all right, this is the end of an era sort of fight. But it's like, okay, but in terms of testing yourself against the top of the cream of the crop, it would have to be against Tom. I think Tom definitely deserves it. But anyways, yeah, so that face-off kind of really showed that, obviously there's a bit of like a bit of an awkwardness or a bit of a tension in a way. Obviously he wasn't trying to create tension. He just he's trying to promote a fight that could potentially happen down the line. But it doesn't seem like Jones would want, doesn't seem like he would want that fight. You've got to give Jones credit as well for all the things that he's done in his career. He's had a massive, long, lengthy career of, being on top, essentially. But, of course, it's what are we doing now in this present time that matters, as of the present, I'm coming off of a loss. So people only remember you for what's going on right now. And, what am I working on? What am I improving on right now to make myself in the future better? So it's the same there in that respect. Tom is the present. You know, he's the present and the future of the heavyweight division. So, you know, I feel like he doesn't seem like Jones doesn't seem like he wants to engage in that matchup too much. You know, and it's I guess it's understandable when you've got a guy like Tom on the scene, you know, young up and coming guy. But yeah, like I said, there's loads of many different ways that you could look into it. Either way, it's entertaining, it's interesting. You know what I mean? You got a video going up on YouTube. It creates a buzz, it creates a hype, and that's essentially what you need in this fight business and the fight promotion side of things. So yeah, it all plays hand in hand, really.
Yeah, definitely got people talking. I don't know if you were able to catch some of the fights that happened in Manchester this past weekend, but we'd spoken about it a little bit, you know, a couple of weeks ago that there's a new light heavyweight champion in Cage Warriors, which, you know, yourself, two-time champion, and the light heavyweight division. I mean, from the fact alone that, you know, it's the smallest division in the UFC. Like it's not easy to find like heavyweights in Europe that are at that caliber, because a lot of them either get snapped up to the big show already or they're not at that level yet. So it's a difficult task, you know. That's why the Cage Warriors light heavyweight title is kind of like sometimes it's about and sometimes it isn't. So when you do have a champion, you know, I'm looking at Andy Clamp and the experience that he's got, and now he's the champ and he's beaten Matty Byfield, who a lot of people had their eye on. I feel like it's not going to take him that long until he gets a shot on, you know, either the PFL or maybe the Contender Series for the UFC, something like that. Like when it was you and you won that first Cage Warriors light heavyweight title, like what were the next few steps like in terms of, you know, thinking where your career is going to go? Because, you know, everyone knows once you win a Cage Warriors title, the UFC are probably going to be looking at you, and then it's kind of up to you from there to convince them to make that move.
I'm going to be a bit harsh here, just because, like, you know, I'd rather say things straight up as opposed to sort of beat around the bush.
Yeah,
you know, looking at the division now in the UFC, there's a lot of light heavyweights who are very explosive, very powerful, big finishers with attributes that really stand out. Now we could you know, obviously fair play to Andy Clamp. He did an absolutely amazing job. You know, he did manage to get the finish. You know, was it one of his best performances? It's kind of hard to tell. But I think in order to really make some noise in terms of the UFC, you have to bring on some pretty emphatic finishes or emphatic fights against very high level competition. You know, and obviously Matty's very good. You know, I just feel like in that fight he didn't show up fully. Maybe the nerves got to him or something, but he you know, I know him to be a bit more aggressive and a bit more, you know, to let his shots fly a little bit more. Obviously, you know, the wrestling may have took it out of him a little bit, but yeah, like I say, I really like Matty, and you know, obviously, still sad to see him to have to lose that fight, just because he's such a great guy. And you know, it's the same to Andy Camp. He is also a great guy as well. You know, he's got an incredible story. But like I said, if we're talking the type of fights that are going to get you into the UFC, look at my fight against Hamlet. You know what I mean? Overcoming adversity, knocking the guy out, landing big shots, showing the light heavyweight power and prowess in all different aspects. Nasilia, knocking the guy out. Chuck Campbell, knocking him out cold. You really got to show levels in order to really get that sort of call up. Now, Contender Series potentially, PFL 100% potentially. These are all things where I feel like maybe he needs at least one or two more wins with the belt in Cage Warriors against high level competition to really find himself, to find his feet, and to also give him that stamp of confirmation for moving up to the next level, if you know what I mean, because it is quite a big jump when you go to the UFC if you've not had the adequate testing in the regional scene, you know, and you're able to show out your skill set to a more, you know, aggressive enforcing degree. Do you know what I mean? Not to say they didn't have a good performance. I just felt like, maybe he needs to put on a little bit of a better performance. You know what I mean? To be really kind of heard on the scene by the big dogs. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think it will do a whole world of good for him as well, to build up his experience even more, so to build up the confidence. It's the same way I had to as well, to be honest with you. I've only just started to really let loose on my fights in my second UFC run. You know what I mean? So it's like, as quick as that dream could happen, it is quickly that the door could be shut on you as well. So, and again, that just comes with skill set and athleticism. So many different things. But I think mainly is going to be experience fighting in those title fights over the course of maybe one or two more times. That will really make his stamp on not only the light heavyweight division in Cage Warriors, but will really make a good argument to send him across if, clearly he's just, plowing through the competition here.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? I agree with you in the sense that, when I wrote my review and kind of recap of the events and stuff like that, despite the fact that there were 2 title fights on the card, which, like I said, a Cage Warriors title puts you under a decent amount of spotlight, because people go, oh, if you made it to the top of the division, okay, let's see what this guy's about. And both Andy Clamp and Liam Gittins, I thought, got great wins on that night, but they were very that they weren't necessarily the most flashy of wins. They were grueling fights to watch, and they were grueling for their opponents. That was what they were trying to do. They were trying to wear their opponents down and break them over time, and they both were successful in doing that to some degree. But the simple matter of the fact is, the person that had everyone talking about him, and the person that I wrote about in the majority of my coverage of the event, was Luke Riley, who didn't even get a finish, but his fighting style is so exciting that you go, that guy isn't going to need a contender series or something like that. Like, he's going to get signed straight up, because not only is he beating good competition, just like the other 2 guys I mentioned, he's doing it whilst looking great. He's got a crazy fan following. Like, he's just generating all this added interest, right? It isn't always just about getting the win, right? Which I think is what you were saying, in that, you can get the wins, and that's eventually, if you just keep winning, eventually it will come. But in terms of getting there right now and kind of capitalizing on the moment, you do kind of need that something extra, right?
You got to make some noise, man. Like, when you look at a fight, you think, did that make some noise? Did something happen there that really makes people go like, wow? And if the answer is no, then there needs to be another fight done to potentially show it, and then another and another. So it's like you said, it's the wow factor that has to be also introduced in order to. That's what got. Listen, if I did not knock Chuck Campbell out on New Year's Eve, I probably wouldn't have got the call. Like, I'm just being dead serious. You have to do something a little bit outside the box. You know what I mean? You have to do something that makes the crowd go, holy shit. Like, wow, And like you said, Luke Riley tends to do that in a lot of his fights. And yeah, I think that's one of the real determining factors as to, how much noise can you make after your fight. If you can make a hell of a lot of noise, that's what's going to get you recognized. It's the same with everything, the social media environment, with everything. If you can make some noise, you can get people talking, boom. You're doing bits out
here. One of the things that has got a lot of people talking about, talking in MMA about at the moment, is a movie that came out today, the acting debut of Conor McGregor in Roadhouse. Are you gonna be checking it out? What have you made of this whole thing?
I've got a private tonight, so and I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. I've been back watching Breaking Bad again.
That's a serious investment.
I've ran through that show about 3 times and I still can't get enough of it. So it's been a while. So I thought I'll get back on it, and yeah, like I said, every single time I love it, and it's a series that I can really get into. I'll definitely end up watching it. Maybe not tonight, but I'll definitely end up watching it. From what I've heard, there's been some really good reviews, and people have been often praising Conor McGregor for his acting abilities. So it'll be very interesting to see. I think it's very good for the sport. It's very good for Conor and his brand. and very good for the Roadhouse brand as well. It's been quite a long time since I watched the old one, funny enough, at Christmas, and I thought that was a great film. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see the contrast between the two.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm definitely gonna watch it. I feel like I should probably watch it sooner rather than later in case somebody asks me about it or whatever. But um, I'm the same as you in that I something's come out, but then I'm already doing something else at the same time. Like I
Yeah.
really want to get round to. There's a new show on Disney Plus called Shogun that looks incredible that I've heard is
Okay.
amazing, and I'm all about that. But getting around to those things just it becomes a list that I'm never going to get around to,
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah.
nightmare. But I think that as just as someone that covers the sport, the most exciting thing about all of this is Conor's been doing so much media again, talking about fights again, and it seems like we're finally getting somewhere with when he's coming back. Like it seems like I listened to an interview today with Dana where he kind of said that the delay has been they wanted Conor to not have to worry about fighting whilst he's got to do all this media obligations. And Conor being Conor was like, I'll do it at the same time. I don't care. But obviously, he's literally been flying around the world to do all these movie premieres, so it'd be hard to do. But it feels like we might get Conor back in the summer, which I don't think it can be overstated how I think MMA is great even when Conor isn't fighting, of course, but it does add that little bit more. People are talking about people who don't usually talk about MMA are talking about MMA when Conor's coming back. It adds that bit
Yeah.
of I don't know, that
It's more
extra
of a
little bit.
buzz.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you feel that as well? Like, I imagine you like. Do you get more people talk to you about like? Because I imagine everyone wants to know
Yeah.
what you think
Yeah.
about Conor McGregor.
Um, I mean, like I say, I tend to focus on myself, and I think I'm sitting here in this present time more frustrated at the fact that I haven't got a fight yet than worrying about other news in the MMA community. Obviously, there's some big fights that are there, and obviously, I'm going to be interested in all of those things. But like I say, there's been almost like a bit of a uh, like a smoke screen over all of that for me because I want to concentrate on my own fights and my own stuff that's going on. And obviously, it's a very selfish way of putting things, but at the same time, I want to progress my career. And although it's great, having these big fights that are being made and stuff like this, and absolutely amazing for the MMA community and for the fans and everyone, but I'm focused on myself and I'm focused on my improvement and myself going up in the ranks and in the ladder. You know what I mean? When I get another fight, I go out there and win emphatically. Then I can probably maybe take an eye and see what's going on around in the rest of the UFC world and the rest of the division and stuff like that. But for right now, because like I say, there hasn't been anything set in stone. I've been very concentrated on just wanting to get back myself. Really, it's like as cool as it is knowing that McGregor will be back. I also want to be back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know that, kind of originally at the start of the year, you were kind of planning around March, which we used to get a UK card around then, and then that didn't happen. So it looks like, from all accounts, that the UFC will be back in the UK in, I believe it's July, is the Manchester rumored date and stuff. But I don't believe that's going to be a pay-per-view. It'll only be a fight night, so it'll be a bit of a smaller card anyway. But at this point, have you just had to? I imagine it's incredibly frustrating, and that all you want to know is a date, but you kind of have to force yourself to not maybe, think about that constantly and just be ready for
Yeah.
whenever they say, right?
Yeah, well, this is exactly it. You have to be ready for whatever's going to turn up, possibly, But yeah, it's just having to train, and but at the same time, maybe like I think like I say, I've got to learn to also sometimes thinking about that and thinking about fighting gets in the way of other things, like me finishing, my business venture with my dad and stuff like this. Um, just because that's where you want your main focus to be, but also it's learning to live life sort of almost without it so that you can learn to live life with it. And what gives you all the opportunities is winning. So also when the opportunity does come, to make sure that you're winning. So that's why ironing out all the issues with all the things that you think you're doing wrong now is only going to be beneficial in the long run, to when I'm actually able to I'm actually able to compete again. So it's a process. It's a process. It's sometimes the unknown is the most annoying thing ever. But yeah, you just gotta stay the course, and then yeah, just try and live day by day and try and make as much as improvement, and that's it really.
Yeah, this was kind of something I was speaking about at the Cage Warriors show with Darren Stewart, who was at the event. He was doing some commentary for that card, of course, former UFC fighter, current Cage Warriors fighter. And I believe he put a post up on social media actually to say that he doesn't know whether he's going to be fighting in London. He was supposed to be fighting in London, but they've had a nightmare finding him an opponent. And he basically said, training camps are too expensive. I can't keep doing this. And they're not getting a date. And so if I don't fight in London, fighting's going to go on the back foot for a while. And, kind of like you said, I guess a little bit like learning to do life without constantly thinking about fighting, because for him, he's been waiting for these dates and it gets pushed back and then pushed back and then pushed. I know that that's a different scenario to yourself because, the issue for Darren is that he's a former UFC fighter and he's in Cage Warriors. And so trying to find, the right opponent for him and stuff like that has been difficult. But what's the longest you've had to wait? Like maybe injuries aside, right? Because obviously that was quite a long time. But in terms of being healthy, do you remember what the longest time you've had to wait for a fight is?
November to March, I think was the
Okay.
longest. But already, even when I fought in November, I already knew by January that I was going to be fighting in March. Then that was on the Stipe Miocic 2 card. Stipe Miocic Ngannou 2 card. So yeah, I mean, it has never been this long that I've had to wait. But at the end of the day, I guess in a way you can say beggars can't be choosers, eh? Like I say, you win, you can sort of call the shots a little bit, or you can at least vouch to go up in the ranks. I mean, Petrino just beat Pedro, and now he's set to fight Anthony Smith. You see, you win, you get what you want. So I understand that's just part of the game. I understand that it requires me to do my job in the cage. So that's what I'm trying to control by improving and leveling up whilst I'm not in the cage physically. So that's where the focus has to be on. And then everything else will just follow spiritually in the right place when it has to.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll leave it there for this episode. And we're not doing these like as regularly as before, so it'll probably be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which for your sake, I hope that we have some kind of news that we can go off of in 2 weeks. With
Yeah.
doing these every 2 weeks instead of every week, it suddenly feels like 2 weeks. It's like we've got to be hearing
We've
something
got to
now.
be in towards something here. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if we're doing
Yeah.
it every week, and I'm like, oh, have you heard anything? And you're like, no. It's like, okay, well, I'll chat to you next week anyway. It's all good. We can, we'll just put the plans off another week. It's cool. But suddenly you add another week, and it's like, geez, when's this fight happening? So,
Yeah.
because
It is crazy. It is crazy and like I say, and frustrating, but part of the game, man. Got to learn to just to get on with life, man.
yeah, and I think that I'm sure this will be something that we'll talk about. Once you do have a fight booked, and we can talk about how your training camp for the fight has changed because of this time off you've had. But like the things that you've tried to like change and adjust, and the things that you've added and stuff like that in this time between having a fight. These are all obviously, as very big changes, and I'm sure they'll be incredibly influential as well. So I don't think we're not in a scenario where it's like all of this wasted time, right? Because you've been
and
doing all of these things, right? So
and of course, there'll be things to talk about because my friend Sebastian is fighting at Octagon on Saturday. I'll be there. I'll be in his corner. So that'll be amazing. And then obviously the week after that, my boy Will is going to be out there doing his thing, and Jordan as well in Cage Warriors. So yeah, there's a load of exciting things coming up, anyways, in terms of just events. So it'll be very amazing to see all of that.
yeah, Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I will catch up with you, my friend, probably when I get back from London. In that case,
Oh,
so all the
this
best for the trip out to Octagon. I'm sure that'll
it's
be
just too
good
tight for
times.
me, man, because of these biceps. No,
all this,
100%,
all this
man.
work you've been doing with the heavy guys, mate.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Exactly. It's just like now I'm starting to become a heavyweight. Do you know what I mean? Maybe next fight you see me on the heavyweight scene. Maybe
Hey,
that's why it's taking me
you
so
might
long
get,
to get a fight.
yeah, exactly. You
No,
might
I'm
get a
joking.
fight sooner.
But yeah, man. Hope you have an absolutely amazing week. Always good talking to you. And yeah, we'll get this carried on the next couple of weeks, brother.
Absolutely, man. All right. Well, like I said, all the best for Octagon, and
My
I
man.
will catch up with you in a couple of weeks.
You're
See you
the
later, man.
man. In a bit, brother.